All right, in this section, we're going to be looking at linear functions, and if you remember, if you are to graph any function that's referred to as linear, then it's always going to be a line. So that's what we'll be dealing with in this section. First of all, looking at the slope of a line. Of course, all of this you're very familiar with. Of course, this is your slope formula, and if you recall, the lowercase m is what's always used to represent slope. So when you know 2 points on your line, then you can use the slope formula in order to find that line's slope. What you would need to do is subtract your y's on the top, subtract your x's on the bottom. So the y coordinate from each point is to be subtracted, the x coordinate from each point is to be subtracted. Now you can put your slopes into categories, and that's what you see next. If you look at your line, of course, if you'll notice on these two, I have L to R, meaning left to right. So if you look at your line from the left side to the right side, and it rises or goes up as it goes left to right, then the slope of that line is always going to be a positive number. So if you reverse that and look at it still from left to right, but your line goes down from left to right or falls, then that slope is always going to be a negative slope. Okay, if you have a line that is horizontal, then the slope is always going to be 0. And if you have a vertical line, the slope is always going to be undefined. So either a positive number, a negative number, 0, or undefined. Of course, undefined happens because of the fact that when you find slope, this is a fraction, and what can happen is you can end up with 0 on the bottom, and of course you can't divide by 0, therefore you would have this category of undefined. That's how that comes in. Now you also think of slope as rise over run sometimes, especially when we actually start graphing these lines in a few minutes. If you refer to the rise of that line, that means how much does it go up from one point to the next point, or how much do you go down from one point to the next point. So rise, your top number, is always your up or your down movement. Up would be if the number's positive, down would be if it's negative. Run is referred to how much do you need to move to the right or to the left to get from point to point. And if your bottom number is positive, that would indicate shifting to the right. If your bottom number is negative, that would indicate shifting to the left. All right, so what we're going to do first is actually just use the slope formula. So if you are given these 2 points, so we have a line that passes through both of these points, and you're asked to find the slope. So you've got to subtract your y's. Now, I know that referred to as y2 minus y1. It really doesn't matter what order you subtract in, as long as you subtract your x's and your y's in exactly the same order. Just from having been taught this in the past, you're probably more accustomed to always doing this one minus this one, which is fine. That's what I'll do. But you can do this one minus this one just as long as it's consistent. Okay, so going to my y's, that would be the 4 and the 3. So I'd have to do 4 minus 3 divided by, and then I need to subtract my x's. So that'll be 2 minus negative 1. Now 2 minus a negative, remember you can just change that to a plus. So you would get 1 on the top, 3 on the bottom. So the slope of this line would be 1/3. Now since that's a positive number, that would indicate that this is a line that rises. So you may be asked, if it rises or falls, and it's just based on whether it's, positive or negative. Okay, next one. Still just finding the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points. Okay, so again, I'll start with my second point. So when I subtract my y's, that would be 5 minus a negative 4. So again, minus a negative, therefore I can change that to a plus. Then when I subtract my x's, I get 3 minus 3. Now this is what I referred to a few minutes ago. Because you are subtracting, you can get 0 on the bottom. Anytime that you have 0 on the bottom, that means that the slope of this line is undefined. Now that would indicate, that this is a vertical line. Of course, you can imagine if you plot these 2 points, they're going to line up, one above the other one, which would indicate that you do have a vertical line. If you get 0 on the top, let's say this had been reversed and you had gotten 0 over 9, then your answer is 0. So 0 on the top would indicate slope of 0, 0 on the bottom would indicate a slope that's undefined.